Pete Wearden from the Socialist Workers' Party, everybody.
Blimey, thank you. Last week, I was watching the telly, and there was a Tory politician saying on the telly, why is all this discussion going on in Parliament about Palestine and Gaza? It's thousands of miles away. It's got nothing to do with us. We should be talking about what happens here. Well, as Phil just pointed out, not only does Britain have a historic responsibility for what's happening in Palestine now, but actually we have a current responsibility. There are factories in Wimborne, Southampton, Bristol, and various other places actually supplying the weapons and the arms to commit genocide in Palestine. We are directly connected to this. The profits made by a British company in slaughter is absolute disgrace. We have to put the pressure on to stop all arms sales to Israel. They can't deny responsibility. They are directly responsible for a lot of what's happening here. Also, I had a conversation last Saturday in town with a Zionist who was trying to persuade me that Palestine didn't exist. That in fact the idea of Palestine and Palestinians was a myth. Interesting actually that the British in the 1930s had a mandate to rule one part of the world, and it was funnily enough called the Palestine Mandate. But if you think about genocide, genocide has three elements. One element is denying people their land, driving people off their land, as Phil was saying, what was done to the Native Americans back in the 18th and 19th centuries. The second thing is the slaughter of people. There was somebody on TV this morning saying that actually the death rate in Gaza is far higher than any other post-war war. Now, if you think about as a percentage of population, now if you think about what that compares with, Vietnam, Korea, various other wars, this is an absolute outrage. The stealing of land and the killing of people, but there's one other element. It is the denial of identity. The denial of identity is one way that you get rid of the idea of Palestine. Well, I think we are all here today, seen many of you on demonstrations before. We will not let the idea of Palestine die. And the courage of the Palestinians in refusing to be driven off their land, in refusing to let Palestine die, is an absolute amazing example. The suffering is immense, but the courage is even greater. I say we have one task, immediate task. Well, actually, we have two tasks. We have to find justice for Palestinians, but we have a very immediate task. The assault on Rafah will be a bloodbath. We know this. It is appalling that it is even being considered. 1.25 million people. We have to campaign like mad to stop the attack on Rafah. And we have to campaign on the streets, through our politicians or whatever else, in any way we can. The attack on Rafah has to be stopped. And actually, the Americans and the British understand the problem. If the attack on Rafah goes ahead, those puppet rulers in the Middle East who support American imperialism, who supported the British in the past, their positions will come under threat if the attack on Rafah goes ahead. The Americans know this, the British know this, that's why they're trying to put pressure on. But the more pressure we can put on from below, the greater the chance we can stop the assault on Rafah. That's our task. Free! Free!
Palestine!
Free! Free!
Palestine!
Free! Free!
Palestine!
Free!